make a 50-foot radius on that corner,
Yep.
that's going to have more impacts than we're looking at. So I think we can reassess that.
And that's what I'm asking.
Very good.
Just take a look and see what we can do, because there's gonna be a bigger problem than what we've had.
Sure.
This truck was on fire.
Yeah, we saw it, yeah.
I mean, we saw the smoke coming out of the truck.
Yep.
It was real bad, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like I would never envision that.
Right.
Still crazy.
You have to see it to believe it.
He crashed into the pole, took the pole out, and then caused a fire in the back of his truck. It was
Yeah.
something.
He had a bad day. Council Toro.
To piggyback off of that, I'm not the Ward Two councilor, but I live in Ward Two. I do agree that we need to do something with that area. I'm not too sure if I agree that we should cut back that land to allow those trucks to take that illegal turn. I feel like it's almost rewarding them. Something should happen, I agree, but these trucks need to be penalized. And I don't know if the fines can go up. It's clear that that's not allowed to be done. You can't drive from Prospect down to Holton Nashua. Like, they need to be penalized and fined. And if they're using Waze and their GPS and it's taking them the wrong street, but there's no truck signs, shame on them. I don't know if taking back the land and give them the opportunity to take that illegal turn is the best way to do it. I think we need to look at something, but I don't necessarily totally agree with that scenario. But
So
that's just my
I think if you were down there and you saw these trucks and what was happening,
Oh,
I agree 100%.
I was there I didn't see it, but I was there. I drove by it 4 times. I saw the truck on fire or smoking. I saw it. I saw both accidents.
Yeah.
I can spit from my house to that corner. Both. I lived on Pigeon Road, which was right there for 5 years. And now I'm off of Green Street on Frank Street Court. I see it all the time. It's a crappy intersection. I'm not of the mindset that we should reward these trucks driving. Some of them probably do it unintentionally, but some of them just don't care. And it's clearly marked no trucks. I don't like, both in my personal life and professional life to reward somebody and give them the ability to take that illegal turn. Because then, again, yes, maybe we won't have that issue, potentially, but now how many more of these trucks are gonna kind of come down there knowing that they can make that turn illegally?
I disagree with you, because you're not rewarding the drivers, you're rewarding the people that live there so that the trucks don't fall
And I'm not-
onto their house.
I understand that, but I'm not saying we don't address it somehow.
Right.
But maybe stiffer penalties, maybe better signage in the area, and something has to happen. I don't like the idea. And again, I'm only one of 9 people there, so I can certainly get outvoted when it comes down to it. But I'm just not somebody that likes the idea of rewarding somebody for taking a legal turn. Understanding that something needs to be done, I just don't think doing it that way is the best way. That's just my opinion, that's all.
Council Mercy, go ahead.
First of all, I think this is a great collaboration, and Mayor, and everybody in the room, and Bill and Charlie, you helped bring together the mitigation money from Ward 5 and Ward 2, and that's gonna be my question. Where are we in terms of the total dollar amount, how much we've spent, how much do we have left, and what is the possibility of achieving what Councilor Papalato wants to possibly achieve?
I think on the scaled back version that's in front of us, I think our last conversation, we would need that line item. There's modifications to what is going to be done there. It's probably going to need some extra funding.
Yep.
Alright, so that'll have to be a different
Yeah.
conversation.
So we'll have to
Yeah.
figure out what,
What the plan is, one thing that we'll probably do is, once the snow goes, I don't want you to call me, you told me you were gonna be down there last week, like, it's not happening. So we'll go down there, once the frost is out of the ground, we'll go down there and do some test pits.
Yep.
We'll see if we get ledge. That's gonna add astronomically the cost, we'll see what it is. I kinda concur with Alderman Toro, like, I would never have anticipated that truck going over it went over there because we took the tree out. So now what next? Like, I think we gotta play the what next game. At least think about it.
Well, when we do the evaluation, we can look at a couple of things. We can look at making a better rounding there with some sort of retaining wall and a little curbing so that something doesn't get hung up there. But understanding the Alderman's concerns about, first of all, your concerns are, we don't want trucks on fire in the corner, it's not a safe issue. Your concern is, we don't want trucks being rewarded, being able to take an illegal turn, and we understand that, so we'll look at, is there something that we can do to, after we regrade and maybe put bollards up so they can't get around there, but if that makes it not safe, we can't do that either. But again, we will check on something. Very competent engineer is going to look at it. Very competent superintendent is going to review it, and together we'll form it.
Councilman Sparrow.
Opinions.
Thank you. And
follow-up?
again, thank you everyone for the work that's being done. And I'm sure if this is something that we pursue, this intersection has been notorious for decades. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity to see some sort of, if there is additional funding needed, some potential funding from maybe some down by the mayor's office that the whole city can talk about. But certainly worthwhile. This intersection is, it's not new what we're talking about, but we're finally talking about potential things to fix it. So I just want to bring up one more point that we talked about when we first started these conversations, Jay and Jay. When you leave and you're coming from Winchester, you know, the Holden Street parking lot and all of that, and you're coming up and you're at that angle on the hill and you're about to cross Green over to Nashua. There's a particular time of year, usually from November till right about now, at 4 o'clock, you can't see and the headlights hit you from the other side. I'm not sure that we were able to do anything to address that because we're talking again about grading and, but I just wanted to confirm, there's nothing we could do at this point to address that situation and the particular time of year and all that, right?
One of the things that Alex and Jay and I were talking about is Alex did a drive around with Greg, and Jay's been up and down that street many, many times. Happens to have lived here for 65 years, so he's familiar with it. Sorry, 62. This time of year where you have salt on the ground and it gets on your windshield, headlight glare is the worst thing in the world. And if you're an older person like myself, it's brutal driving at night, you know, just one of those things. There's nothing we can do about that, but,
And I know it's particularly terrible with the LEDs, but that spot, literally, it's the only place I've ever been blinded. And I've heard from other people, like to the point where just don't go there. Like, don't go there during those seasonal times. Maybe that'll solve the problem with how people don't go there in the winter. I don't know.
Andrew from
But-
Winchester.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you all. It's great that we're making efforts, and Charlie, I'll circle back on the final numbers. Yeah.
Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of going off of what Chairman DeMambro said earlier about spitballing. Has there been any thought to, and I don't know if we would have the standing to call it a legal notice, but possibly sending legal notices to the businesses on Holton Street? Even if they're in Winchester, just stating the traffic law and maybe with a map that shows it so that they can let their drivers, or they can let the companies that they're getting shipments from, to know that the traffic law in Woburn states as such.
I think we could do some sort of advisory that
Or maybe even the threat of enhanced traffic enforcement in the area.
part of the problem, as you all probably recall, about the truck study. In order for Woburn to enforce our trucking signs, we have to have an approved truck route plan. We hired somebody a few years ago to do a truck route study. We just talked about this a little while ago about revisiting that study to see whether it can be adopted or if more work is to be done before it can be adopted. In order for us to try to enforce a truck sign, our plan has to be approved. It hasn't been approved yet. So most of the no trucking signs that exist in our city
Are unenforceable.
don't have the teeth that we wish they have.
So my question on that would be, how far out would we be on this? Because we're out there telling constituents that we have no trucking signs up, and if we can't enforce them, then why do we even have them up?
I think the difficulty arises from the fact that when our consultant put all the no trucking, or the trucking prohibitions and times available on a plan, it shows that you can't negotiate around the city at all hours of the day if you're in a truck.
You just gotta stop, pull to the side of the road and stop and wait till after 9 AM or something like that.
Yeah, and so it's unworkable. And again, I think that to allow trucks to go about the city on a continual basis is going to require some tough decisions. And I don't know if anybody really wants to make those. The mayor made a recommendation that we finish the truck study, go with the recommendations, submit it to the traffic commission, let them get it out there to at least have the public see what it is, put it on our website. And at some point in time, it would come to the council for approval, disapproval. But it would change some places that are currently no trucking. Yeah, you know, it's like, how many people are in favor of putting trucks back on Green Street? Not a good idea.
You
How
have
many
to give trucks an actual route somewhere in the city. You can't prohibit all trucks.
The other thing in terms of even going farther outside the box, I think, and I think it's at that time where, you know, this might be novel, but when it comes to Waze and Google, I think communities like Woburn get punished. Because even a minute, they'll peel you off the highway and have you cut through Woburn if you're going from 95 to 93. And there has to be something, some sort of provision within there that's in the fine print somewhere where if there's enough complaints or community petitions it enough, that there could be the type of trucking restrictions added, because I've seen it. When I drove for Lyft, I used to drive all over the Commonwealth, and even in the city of Boston. The city of Boston, they had the no trucking restrictions up on Waze and Google. So I'm not sure if that's something we as the city could submit to them just to see if we get a response back or something would stick.
That's probably because Boston's truck route has been approved. Because their plan allows trucks reasonable access through their city. That's always been the rub here. The signs and the plan we have currently doesn't really allow trucks reasonable access through the city. I know Council Ferrulo has made this a mission of his over the years to point out that our truck route simply doesn't work here in the city. We'd have to make sure you gave them a reasonable route, have it approved, and then I think in Waze or any of these other Google Maps might then include that as part of their plan. But right now, I don't think they can.
There are some truck routes within the city that were approved by Mass DOT in
State
accordance with the state requirements. Those are in the traffic code of the city municipal traffic code. Those we could submit to Waze. Those are not the problem areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Ferrell.
Yeah, I'll be quick. The GPS part, I think from Prospect to Holt, the intersection, I think that's legitimate, and I think that's on Waze. And that was a result of David Allen, 38 Green Street.
Yeah.
Became very friendly over the course of my 7 years as chief. So I think that's in there. I just think that they just drive through because they can't find another way. There's three kinds of signs that are up. There's the real accepted signs. There's the ones that we may have accepted or traffic commission may have accepted and they get put up. And there's a whole series of mystery signs that just get put up where they came from. I have a good idea.
In the
but I wasn't
darkness of night.
I wasn't able to solve that before I retired. But for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. We put up a no trucking sign, you're gonna hurt somebody else. I spent a day with Tina Cassidy and the traffic guy, consultant guy that does the work for the city.
Not Richie,
Yeah, Richie Benefit.
what was it, Richie? I thought it was their traffic guy, who's the, Rod Emery.
No, there were two of them in the car, I drove them
Okay,
around.
Rod Emery.
And that's after I retired. And you look at, if you get off at 128, and then I'll shut up and move on from this. You get off at 128 and go south on Main Street, the first left that a truck can take is Salem Street. So we're forcing the truck into one street in the whole city. If you get off of Montpelier, if you get off at 93 on Montpelier Ave after 9 o'clock, the first right you can take is at Main and Montpelier. You're crushing everything into one spot, which is causing the ruckus, and this could go on forever. That's part one. So some of these are real and they're stolen things. We work Carroll Kitchens on 215 Salem Street. Their trucks, on delivery trucks that brought their product and their delivery trucks going out, used to use Pine Street. I think Pine Street might be like a quasi-fake sign or a real sign, but it's up
Real
there.
one.
So we went over to Carroll Trucking
Yes.
and we got a
Woburn
map
City.
on where they can go. And they worked with us to get their vendors off of Pine Street. And I lived right there for 20 years. And so you knew that that worked. Either a project for the traffic bureau or somebody in the summertime, just an intern, to go drop informational packets to the businesses. There's not that many businesses between Winchester and Woburn. 30, 40 maybe? I don't think there's a lot. You could probably just do that as a project with somebody in an educational event, just to have them share it with their people. We did the same, you couldn't park on Bradley's parking lot. That was a big issue for a long time over there. An educational outreach, which I'll coach, I'll guide. I don't want to do the deliveries, but if somebody needs help with that, I'll do that. And the third thing, for the ones that disobey it, there's a phenomenally talented Massachusetts state trooper that's assigned to the truck team that would love to come visit his hometown, that could help us enforce the violations, this stuff, and hit him hard, rather than write a ticket for driving on a street that's $35, to hit him hard for all sorts of issues on the truck. I mean, that's another option, to work with Chucky Stokes, who's doing a phenomenal job on the traffic bureau, to get him that when there's a truck-related traffic accident there, let's hit him hard. And let's take them out of service and let's do the stuff to do there to fix the problem. And I could go on, but that'll be enough for now. I'm more than willing to help this because it's been a thorn in my side since I was a cop.
Councilman.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that, because I think, Counselor, there's only 6 signs in the entire city that are legal no trucking signs. Because you and I talked about this years ago, you sent me an email. I'm gonna share it with the rest of the council. And the traffic study itself for the truck route, that is a can of worms, boy. You know, people that live on residential streets that don't see trucks right now will see trucks. So it really requires a lot of thought, but we could start by enforcing the ones we have that we
Somewhere there's an
can
awesome map.
enforce.
There's an awesome map that has everything laid out. I don't know if you
I
guys.
think
made it.
I think I have it from back in the day. That's why I'm gonna share it with the council, because
organized.
a lot of people in the city think all these no trucking signs mean something, and they don't. And they get very upset when they, well, what do you mean? Just like the do not enter signs, half of them don't mean anything, they're
Those are
non-enforceable. So I will be happy to share that.
Real quick, just sort of follow, well, I'm good. Keep going.
Is there anyone else that has any questions, comments, concerns? What is the will of the committee? Oh, this is just an update.
This is an
So
update.
It's just information.
just an informational, so let's keep it in committee.
I will
the
make
next
the
update.
request to the city auditor in the form of a motion to get a breakdown of how much we spent, what the current balance is for the project for Salem and Bow.
Can I go back?
Second. Excuse me.
On the motion, right, but
On the motion.
and there's a ton of exemptions to what trucks are. Any utility isn't a truck, even though it's a truck. Any common carrier isn't a truck, even though it's a truck. FedEx, UPS,
Yeah, none of that.
Edison, all that stuff. doesn't count.
Landscaping trucks.
Trucks.
Is there a second on the motion Council Mercer Bruin put up?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Motion,
Motion, get one more
Yeah,
in.
one more.
Sorry.
You have Holton and Green Street.
You don't get off that easy, Jay.
Salem and
And then now, the next one will be the lights at Salem Street and Bow Street. Gentlemen,
This has been an ongoing project at the request of Alderman Bruin
and Council Demers.
and Council Demers. We were to put up rapid flashing beacons at the intersection of Bow and Salem Street. This has been on our Complete Streets program. It's the #2 project for about 5 years now. The Alderman came to the mayor with funding. We started this project, we looked at it. Because of the speed of the cars in this area, because of the wideness of Salem Street, we had to get a consultant to review the warrants relative to the Uniform Traffic Code as to putting up rapid flashing beacons in that area. Blah, blah, blah. At that time, we said, well, we can narrow it down. If we're going to narrow it down, we should look at the rounding at Beach and Salem, which is part of a bigger project to get more graves for the veterans lot up at Woodbrook by closing down Memorial Drive. So we looked at this as a bigger thought, not thinking that, well, it was gonna cost a lot more money. And then We had subsequent meetings where Alderman Demers and Alderman Bruin said, whoa, we just want 2 rapid flashing beacons so we can cross the street in place. To it, we went out there, our consultant measured up and said, you don't have the room to legally get this in here and meet the ADA requirements. So we looked at an alternative which would neck down the roadway. And in order to evaluate it, DPW went out, they painted it on the ground. In addition to painting it on the ground, they put up signs said, because people just said, I don't know what this is, and drove over it. Put a sign up, said, new traffic patterns. People started to obey. About half the people drove over. The other half of the people went around. After a few weeks, it was actually learned. I would drive out there. Jay was out there a number of times.
We kept the cones up there too.
Yeah, oh, I forgot about the cones. So people actually learned. We had to pull back the radius at Beach Street because it was a little too severe. I think, based on Jay's analysis and my review, we're going to pull it back a little bit more in the final scenario, if that's where we go with it. We essentially have 2 options. Kick the curb out, narrow the road, then we can put the flashing beacons in because we have enough room. The other alternative is leave everything where it is, and obtain easements from the residents to put these things on their thing. Now, at one point we talked to the alderman, we're going to go talk to the people out there, find out, A, would you give us an easement if we need it? B, how do you feel about having a flashing beacon next to your house? Is that problematic? I don't know where that is at the moment. But so we have alternative A, which is move the road out. We can go ahead. Alternative B, do a small easement on somebody's private property and locate them that way. Now, as we get into the better months, and again, I know what happens the first day that it's 62 degrees. Everybody calls my office, calls Jay's office and says, what the hell are you guys going out there? So it's not gonna happen right away, but sometime in April, May.
Probably April 15th again would be the target date. We'd probably repaint it, put the traffic board out there again.
Yep.
Put the cones back out there, and then we kind of need the input. I don't know what your constituents are saying. We need to get that feedback, because we got beat down.
But there was another interim solution that we had looked at, talking with Alex and Jay. We want to redo that crosswalk across Salem, just south of Bow. Put up retroreflectivity signs, the yellow signs, so you can actually see, say, crosswalk. They have the arrows that point to the crosswalk. And 110 feet or so in each direction on Salem Street, another sign that says crosswalk ahead. At least that gives us some level of, hey, there's a crossing up here, pay attention. And that's actually a good thing as a prelude to, once we figure out what we're going to do, alternative A or alternative B, with rapid flashing beacons, as people are used to the fact that there's a crosswalk there. So at this point in time, again, everything has been a one step forward, learn, one step forward, learn. I know it's frustrating because things take so long. Sometimes we move at the speed of a glacier, and I understand that, but we're getting there. We see value in what we're doing. So
We really need to get that input though to decide which way we're gonna go and how much money it's gonna cost. And if we're gonna go with the curbing, we're gonna push that out, and it's gonna cost money. I think we've got an estimate, from at least from the contractor, from the consultant. And it's a lot of money. So if we're gonna do it, we gotta make sure, there may be some pushback from the residents. I know I'm getting pushback. So I think we need to kind of square that away first and see which direction we want to go.
Councilmember Brown.
I know there was pushback about the redirection of traffic, because I fielded a lot of those calls and didn't know the redirection of traffic was coming, so I hear you on that. So I'm glad to hear we are still talking about solutions, right? As opposed to we just can't do this. So, Jay, when you referred to the big signs, the crossing signs and the light, what you described to me sounds very similar to what we did at Washington Circle, Washington Street and Mill.
Yes.
Same kind of situation, right? That seems like again, there's two of us here, we serve two different groups of people, but that seems like a potential logical next step if it doesn't require a lot of other hurdles. In terms of the, the easements, that of course is a conversation with the residents. But in terms of, do you care if there's a flashing light in front of your house? If it doesn't require an easement, that's not a conversation that we need to or should be having. This is a public safety project. So I'm just saying, I personally don't feel a need to have that conversation if easements aren't required. If easements aren't required, we gotta have that conversation because we're asking someone to use their land. But I remember a situation where we put a flashing sign up not too long ago in what was formerly part of Ward 5, and somebody didn't want it near their house, but it was a public safety matter. We can't not say the tough things when it comes to public safety. So I just wanted to comment on that briefly.
If we do the curbing scenario, we don't need the easement. If we don't do the curbing, we do need the easement.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
Jay was saying.
Okay, I didn't get that distinction, so thank you. Yeah.
It may be tricky.
Yeah.
But I think what he's saying is, it may be tricky to get an easement from somebody when you're gonna be putting a flashing cross.
Absolutely, no question, no question.
On the flip side of that, they've also paved their driveways,
Some of them have paved their driveways on public property.
Without permit.
Well, some of them have paved their driveways on public property. And again, I would have no problem going to them and saying, this is not your property. Sorry you paved it. You shouldn't have done that. But that's a conversation for another day. In terms of the speeding, sure.
I
Yeah,
just want to clarify something.
yeah.
The Washington Terrace, Washington Circle solution you were just talking about, can that be implemented at the crosswalk at Salem Beach and Bow right now without?
Not right now. That's why we got.
I thought that's what I was
That's why we
hearing.
got the-
If I may,
No,
I think
we can't do it
that
right now. We need to-
we can't do it right now
We
because
could
the
do- we
span
had
is too,
easements.
the span is too big between both sides of the roadway.
So without
Correct.
bumping out the curb is what I'm getting at.
We can't do it we can't do it without, we need an easement. That's why we went to the next level with TEC. When we had the meeting back in August, we agreed to take the next step. That was the reason, is we needed survey data and to get existing property line information to determine the right of way. So we can't do it now. And then I was gonna try to put up some, flash, crosswalk signs. I can't even do it because I knew we were gonna take them down the hard way.
Those are RFBs at that intersection? Are we talking about RFBs or just flashing pedestrian signs that are solar?
Actual RFPs.
Okay. Yeah, that's the dynamic here is you
Rather
need to
robust.
move the curb out from people's existing driveways so that you can put the signs in. You can't have the flashing RFBs without the land. And right now we don't have it.
And I misunderstood. I thought there was an option where we could do some of it without easements at all.
Now,
We-
my question was,
I
think you
thought
may
so
have
too.
answered this. Right now, as the intersection sits, could we put a sign on each side at the crosswalk, just a yellow line with an arrow, right now? And, saying yes. And could we go back 110 feet on our own property and put a sign, just a yellow sign that says crosswalk ahead?
Yes,
Can
that,
we do those two things now?
No, not today, not in the winter.
Oh, yeah,
But
April 15th.
Oh,
I thought that's what it was.
Because it's a very similar, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, I think the same situation that we have, that we did down on Washington Terrace, Washington Circle, and Washington Street.
yeah, well, we have the
Further
crosswalk,
apart,
the
the
yellow,
crosswalk is there,
yellow
yep, yep.
decorative crosswalk
Yep.
signs. That's what
Then
I'm
the
talking
flasher
about.
that says pedestrian
Well,
signs.
these wouldn't flash. This would just be a minor alternative to get us to the next leg of the project, if you will.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
That's what
thought,
you're talking about.
oh, okay, I thought it involved some sort of flashing light similar to what we have on Washington. and
I mean, if we wanted to scale that, we could do the little Christmas tree signs like we have out here.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were asking about.
No, I'm talking about just the, MUCD yellow, crosswalk signs. We can certainly look at having, they're not going to be robust, these are going to be, but they would flash.
Can I just ask a quick question? When the roadway was altered with the cones and then the signs, and I asked about, were we collecting data on speed to see if there was any differential at all in speed? Because I'm hearing from residents that are saying, this is silly, this doesn't work. Why do we do this? People still saying that, and usually people get used to it, right? Used to these changes. Sometimes it takes a bit. So will we be collecting some?
We had the police department actually collect some data middle of November, which showed that the average speeds, it's a 40-mile-an-hour section for speed limit. Average speeds there were down to 29 miles an hour in the afternoon and 23 miles an hour in the morning. Average speed was still 33 miles an hour. But again, we did see from baseline data, there was a calming effect, if you will.
Okay, good. Can I make a motion for the city council to get a copy of that data?
We'll send
That
that.
would be awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you
All
for
in
doing
favor?
that. I also wanted to just get a quick, I know Councilor Demers probably wants to talk, so I'll shut up, but I want to just get a quick, make a motion to get a status on where we are in terms of funding. The original amount that we took and how much we've spent to date and what we have left. And I'll make that motion to go to City Auditor Doherty.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Council
you.
DeMears, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I know Councilor Mercer Bruin first came to me to discuss this. I had a constituent also reach out to me that was kind of the impetus of kind of rolling up our sleeves and starting to work on this. I know in our last meeting we had with the consultant, I believe it was in August, you said, the purpose behind the striping was we're trying to prep people for when we put out that curbing, if we go that direction, because we don't want it to end up being similar to when they did the jet out. I think it was at Mass DOT that did the jet out at Salem and Cedar.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't informed to anybody. There was no signage, there was nothing, and a few people had some ruined suspensions in their vehicles. So I think the primary focus was to warn people that, hey, a change is probably in the offing. And I think it's a two-prong approach. The safety with the flashing beacon is key, but then also slowing people down. Because even those speeding averages, all it takes is one person doing 65 up the right-hand side
Which is
on Salem and then veering onto Beach Street to cause an accident. Because there's also people that cross at the Beach Street intersection with Salem as well. So that the beacon we're hoping is to save a few, make it more safety for kids crossing to go to school and leaving school, or even going to the Kennedy. These folks from, the Hilltop area, they walk down to the Kennedy. But I think the curbing is an important piece to slow people down coming up Salem Street so that they have to come to almost a stop or a much less gradual turn onto Beach. Because I know my constituents on Beach, by the time people make that turn and they get past the cemetery, they're still traveling at a pretty good clip before they get to that four-way stop at Clinton. So I'm supportive of the curb cutout piece. I know, the striping might have been a little drastic for some folks. I only got one call about it. But I think that's because the DPW is quick to respond with the cones and the signage and a little bit of painting over the existing white striping. But in that regard, I think it's crucial on a two-prong. But then on the larger scope of it, and this is more long-term, if we were to move that island a little bit, we could tee that intersection off and then seed some of that old island land off to the cemetery so that we could expand the veterans plot area. So I think, I think it would be great and dandy if we could get this all done in one foul swap, but it's a big expense. But I think moving forward, if we tried to maybe break it down in phases so that we can plan this out more capitally as opposed to, either or, I think that would be a sound move.
Anyone else with any questions?
There's one more comment. Nobody else has anything?
Council Mercer Brown?
Just to that point, if, as long as we see some continued progress, how small it is, like the mayor's idea, what he just came up with, I mean, that is some kind of progress. So before the kids go back to school in September, if possible.
I mean, I think we need to, let's make a decision here and go. Like, once,
Yep.
May, June, let's decide what we're gonna do, and then we'll figure out if that's the route you wanna go, but I really think you're gonna need to get some input from the residents that are on Beach Street. I mean, nobody wants to slow down. Like, the other one, they want everybody else to slow down, but they don't want to slow down themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
That might be guilty
the
too.
striping, after people caught on wise to the striping, after they reacted to, oh, what's this here? People were still driving over it.
Yeah.
They're not the people we were trying to warn. The people we were trying to warn are the people that are gonna come up on it and not realize that there's eventually gonna be a curve there. So people are gonna speed. It's, people are gonna take illegal turns, so it's like, it's the people. It's not necessarily the roadway, but in this case, when it comes to speed, we have a way of fixing it it's almost like fixing two problems with one little project.
Is there anything-
Unfortunately, we can't design for idiots.
No, that's the thing. You can't fix
Reality of it.
Stupid.
Yeah, right.
engineer code. You can't fix stupid. I'll tell you.
But to Jay's point, what I'm hearing, what I think makes sense is come April 15th or so, we go back out there, we repaint the lines in the roadway, maybe we soften that curve just a little bit, because this is an art as much as it's a science. Pull back the double yellow line on Beach approaching Salem to give a little more landing for that right turn, tweak it just a bit. Repaint the lines, put the message board out there, put some cones up, kind of reinforce what we're trying to do, and then use that speed data to inform a decision. But at some point, we would like the input from this group. Do you like the aggressive plan A, bump the curb up? Or do you think that's too much and you'd rather not do that and you'd rather explore the legal process of obtaining easements to put up the RFPs? I could live with either of those options. I'd really like to hear from the council which one you prefer, but I think there's a little bit more time to form an opinion.
Is it a crazy suggestion to have a community meeting?
I mean, I'd be all for it.
Yep, I would think we should host a neighborhood meeting. It doesn't have to be as an elaborate as some of the other things we've done here in the city, because it doesn't involve that many
I think the
people.
abutters that'll be impacted by any changes
Must
to the
be included.
intersection,
Yeah,
especially.
Councilor Demers and I can organize that.
Maybe we should
Happy to
for
attend.
May or so, to
Yeah.
give us a little time.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this matter?
I'll just say, just looking at for a week, with both the Jays and the mayor briefed me on it early on. I think there's some things that we could do short term, repainting a crosswalk, adding some signs that I think will immediately help. And then I agree with Jay that this is a project that could easily be funded by grant, Safe Routes to School, Complete Streets program. But if you go down that road, you are going to have to take the curb and make safety improvements. So, you have two options on doing the lines, doing the stripes, and leaving it as is. If you want an RFP, you're gonna have to meet the full grant standards and the full safety standards of the road, which will mean teeing up Beach, moving the curb out, and then that leads into the cemetery project. It really all makes a lot of sense. They also call for a left-hand turn lane at Bow if you really wanna get full soup to nuts here, but I think in the short term, you've got some good plans, and then we can engage the community and the council further.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Call the
at
Committee on Public Safety. and
11:10.
Oh, I forgot.
4 to 5 weeks to
With me, Council Papalato, Council Campbell.
Thank you for coming.
Council Liaison, Council-
Welcome, thank you, Mayor.
Make a motion with, dispense with the reading and approve of the
Second.
minutes from the previous
All
meeting.
in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2 items before us tonight.
Charlie?
The first is the petition for renewal of a common carrier license for M&L Transit Systems at 60 Olympia Avenue. All of the paperwork is in order. There were no citizen complaints. And it's, the special condition that's on, the condition that's on this is it identifies the streets that it's primarily going to travel on,
Make a motion that we send out the petition for renewal of the common area license at the pass,
Second.
Second.
subject to existing.
subject to existing conditions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The last item is paperwork. In a previous meeting, we gave a second-class motor vehicle license to Alex's Auto and Repair at 505 Main Street. He's simply asking that license be renamed to the same corporate structure, but the new name is Alex Auto Brokers, simply a change in name.
Make a motion that the request for the alteration of the name of the business be approved.
Second.
Send out after pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I'll gladly entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.